The headlines screamed emergency surgery, devastating diagnosis, and Chip Gaines heartbroken as he watches wife suffer. Social media exploded with speculation. Was Joanna Gaines dying? Had she been hiding a terminal illness all along? Clickbait articles painted a picture of a woman on the brink of collapse, with her devoted husband keeping a bedside vigil while their empire crumbled. But the truth, as it often is, was far more complicated than the sensational stories suggested. Yes, Joanna Gaines has been dealing with health issues. Yes, there have been moments of real pain and struggle. But the narrative that tabloids created wasn't just exaggerated. It was designed to prey on fans' worst fears. What Joanna finally revealed about her health in late 2024 wasn't about a sudden crisis or a life-threatening disease. It was about something she'd been carrying for decades, a chronic injury that had shaped her entire adult life in ways most people never realized. And the way she and Chip have handled it reveals more about their marriage than any renovation ever could. The real story of Joanna's health struggles doesn't begin in 2022 or even 2020. It starts in high school, long before anyone knew her name. Joanna was a cheerleader at Midway High School in Waco, Texas, and during her time on the squad, she sustained a serious back injury. It wasn't the kind of thing that made headlines or sent her to the emergency room immediately. It was the kind of injury that young athletes brush off, push through, and ignore because there's always another practice, another game, another reason to keep going. But that injury never fully healed. Over the years, it worsened. The wear and tear of daily life, the physical demands of renovation work, and eventually the strain of 5 pregnancies all took their toll on her spine. By the time she met Chip Gaines in 2001, the pain had become a constant companion. In fact, one of the least known stories about their relationship involves Joanna's back. Shortly after they started dating, her chronic pain flared so severely that she required surgery. It was 2001, and they'd only been together a short time. Joanna was terrified, not just of the surgery itself, but of what it might mean for this new relationship. Would Chip stay? Would he see her as broken, as too much trouble? She later admitted that she half expected him to walk away. Instead, Chip showed her exactly who he was. He stayed by her side through the surgery and recovery, proving early on that his love wasn't conditional on her being perfect or pain-free. That moment became the foundation of their marriage, a quiet promise that when things got hard, they wouldn't run. When Fixer Upper premiered in 2013, viewers fell in love with Joanna's calm, graceful presence. She made everything look effortless. The designs, the renovations, the way she balanced work and motherhood. What no one saw were the days when her back pain was so severe she could barely stand. She never complained on camera, never let the discomfort show. Behind the scenes, Chip and the crew learned to accommodate her needs without making a spectacle of it. Shorter filming days when necessary, adjustments to physical tasks, and an unspoken understanding that Joanna was tougher than she looked. But toughness has a cost. For years she pushed through the pain because there was always another project, another deadline, another season to film. The Magnolia empire was growing at a breakneck pace, and stopping felt impossible. By the time they launched Magnolia Network in January 2021, Joanna was running on fumes. The network's debut had been delayed multiple times due to the pandemic, and when it finally launched, the pressure was immense. New shows to produce, a massive audience to satisfy, and the weight of proving that their brand could thrive beyond HGTV. Throughout 2021 and into 2022, Joanna kept moving, kept designing, kept smiling for the cameras, but her body was screaming for her to stop. The chronic back pain that had been manageable for years was no longer something she could ignore. Simple tasks became agonizing. Lifting her youngest son, Crew, picking up supplies at a job site, even sitting through long meetings left her in tears. She finally admitted to Chip that she couldn't do this anymore. Not without help. In late 2022, Joanna underwent another procedure to address her spinal issues. It wasn't the dramatic emergency surgery that tabloids would later claim, but it was serious. Recovery required her to step back from filming and public appearances, something she'd never done before. For a woman whose identity was so tied to productivity and perfection, it felt like failure. Chip, however, saw it differently. He'd been watching his wife push herself to the breaking point for years, and he was relieved she was finally prioritizing her health. During her recovery, he took on more responsibilities at Magnolia, handled media appearances solo, and made sure their 5 kids understood that mom needed rest. It was a role reversal that reminded both of them why they'd fallen in love in the first place. When one stumbled, the other stepped up. By early 2023, Joanna was feeling better. Not cured, chronic pain doesn't work that way, but stronger and more able to manage her condition. She returned to work gradually, learning to set boundaries she'd never allowed herself before. Shorter filming days became non-negotiable. Physical tasks were delegated. And for the first time in years, she started saying no to projects that would demand too much. It was a new chapter, one where success didn't mean doing everything, but doing what mattered most. Chip supported every decision, even when it meant turning down lucrative opportunities. He'd learned the hard way that no amount of money was worth watching Joanna suffer. Then came July 2024, and with it a different kind of pain. Magnolia Network premiered a new series called Back Up to the Frontier, a show about families building off-grid homesteads and reclaiming self-sufficiency. One of the featured families was Jason Hanna and Joe Riggs, a same-sex couple raising twin sons. For most viewers, it was a heartwarming story about love, resilience, and family. But for some, particularly within the evangelical Christian community that had long embraced the gains, it was a betrayal. On July 12, 2024, evangelist Franklin Graham posted a scathing message on social media, calling out Chip and Joanna by name. He accused them of promoting sin and abandoning their Christian values by giving visibility to a gay couple. The post went viral, igniting a firestorm of controversy. Conservative fans flooded Magnolia's social media with angry comments, accusing the couple of caving to woke culture. Others praised them for showing compassion and inclusivity. Chip, who had spent years carefully navigating public opinion and avoiding divisive topics, finally had enough. On July 15th, he posted a response that surprised many. He didn't apologize or backtrack. Instead, he wrote that modern Christian culture had forgotten how to listen, saying we've become a people who judge first and understand later, or never. He went on to say that featuring Jason and Joe wasn't about politics or pushing an agenda. It was about recognizing that love, commitment, and family take many forms. Joanna remained publicly silent, but those close to the couple said she fully supported Chip's statement. Together, they made a decision that risked alienating a significant portion of their fan base. They chose empathy over ideology. The backlash was swift. Their longtime church, Antioch Community Church in Waco, released an awkward statement trying to distance itself from the controversy without outright condemning the gains. Some fans vowed to boycott Magnolia products, but something unexpected happened. For every angry comment, there were 10 messages of support. People thanked Chip and Joanna for showing that faith and compassion aren't mutually exclusive. LGBTQ families expressed gratitude for being acknowledged and celebrated, and many longtime fans said the controversy made them respect the gains even more. It revealed that beneath the carefully curated brand was a couple willing to take a stand for what they believed was right, even when it was uncomfortable. In interviews following the controversy, Joanna reflected on how their faith had evolved over the years. She admitted that fame had forced them to examine their beliefs more critically, to ask harder questions about what it means to live a life rooted in love. She said that raising 5 children in a rapidly changing world had challenged many assumptions she'd grown up with, and she acknowledged that her own struggles, physical, emotional, and spiritual, had made her more empathetic to others facing battles she couldn't see. Chip echoed her sentiments, saying that Jesus spent his time with outcasts, not with people who had it all figured out. For him, the decision to feature Jason and Joe wasn't radical. It was consistent with the values he'd always tried to live by. By fall 2024, the dust had settled. The controversy faded as new scandals captured the internet's attention, but the gains emerged from it changed. They were no longer the safe, universally beloved couple from small-town Texas. They were more complex, more human, and more willing to risk their image for their principles. In November 2024, Joanna appeared on the Stronger podcast and spoke candidly about the toll that balancing everything had taken on her. She admitted that there were days when she didn't know how to be both a wife and a business partner, both a mother and a brand. She talked about the guilt of missing moments with her kids because of work commitments and the frustration of feeling like she was constantly failing at something. It was the kind of raw honesty that fans rarely heard from her, and it resonated deeply. Chip, sitting beside her during the interview, acknowledged his own struggles. He admitted that he sometimes prioritized work over connection, that he took Joanna's strength for granted, and that learning to slow down had been one of the hardest lessons of his life. They both laughed when Joanna mentioned their dance lessons earlier that year. "We're so good at building houses together," she said, "but put us on a dance floor and we're a disaster." Chip joked that it was a good metaphor for marriage. You don't always move in perfect sync, but as long as you're willing to keep trying, you'll figure it out. By the end of 2024, Joanna's health had stabilized. She'd learned to manage her chronic pain through a combination of physical therapy, rest, and finally accepting that she couldn't do everything herself. The fear that had gripped fans earlier in the year, fueled by clickbait headlines and exaggerated rumors, proved to be unfounded. She wasn't dying. She wasn't stepping away from Magnolia. She was simply learning to live differently. As 2025 began, Chip and Joanna found themselves in a new phase. Their oldest children, Drake and Ella, had left for college, leaving the house quieter and the reality of time's passage more evident. Joanna posted an emotional message on Instagram about the bittersweet nature of watching your kids grow up. She wrote about the group hugs that now happened less often, the empty bedrooms that once overflowed with noise, and the strange grief that comes with successful parenting, the knowledge that you've raised them to leave. Chip, ever the optimist, focused on the future. He talked about the freedom that comes with this stage of life, the ability to travel more, to take on passion projects, and to rediscover each other as a couple rather than just as business partners and parents. Their story, often presented as a flawless fairy tale of love and success, is actually far more compelling in its imperfection. Joanna's health struggles reveal a woman who spent years hiding pain behind a perfect smile. Chip's public defense of an LGBTQ family reveals a man willing to risk his reputation for his principles. Together, they've shown that marriage isn't about never struggling. It's about choosing to stay even when staying is hard. The clickbait headlines got it wrong. Joanna's story isn't about a devastating diagnosis or a miraculous recovery. It's about resilience, about learning to set boundaries, and about accepting that you don't have to be everything to everyone. Chip's story isn't about being a heartbroken husband watching helplessly from the sidelines. It's about being a partner who shows up, adapts, and supports even when the path forward isn't clear. What Joanna Gaines revealed about her health wasn't shocking because it was dramatic. It was shocking because it was honest. In a world where influencers and celebrities curate perfect lives for public consumption, Joanna admitted that she's been in pain for decades, that she's struggled to balance work and family, that she doesn't have all the answers, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply ask for help. At 61, Chip and Joanna Gaines are still building, not just houses or businesses, but a life that reflects their evolving values. They're still making mistakes, still learning, still figuring out how to move in sync. And maybe that's the real lesson, that the most beautiful things aren't the ones that look perfect. They're the ones that have been broken, repaired, and loved through every imperfection.